We are live. No, we're not live yet.
No. Do not ask too much of YouTube.
Yeah, really.
He's a sleepy guy. Takes his wine.
Seriously. Oh, we are live on YouTube.
Nice.
All right.
All right.
Minimal technical difficulties this morning.
Minimal.
What is up, Effect enjoyers? How are all of you?
Hello. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Who broke production?
Who broke production today? Indeed. I broke production today. No, I didn't. I broke it yesterday, though.
Well, depends on the time zone you're in, right?
True. I don't actually, like, was it yesterday? I was upgrading change sets in the effect repository, and I, like, totally broke all of, like, the release automation we have.
Nice.
But I couldn't figure out why I was failing because everything was set up correctly. And then I realized that I think in the new change set beta, in the 3.0 beta or whatever, they introduced some sort of like formatting option, like that if dprint's installed in your repository, it automatically formats your change sets for you. And that was breaking because formatting was not right or something. I don't know. Anyway, I just had to set like a format false in the configuration, and then everything was working.
But yeah, I added it to the sorry.
I was gonna say there's nothing like a good old one-liner fix.
Yeah,
that's breaking everything. You haven't broke production for over a year now, and you have full read-write access. Are you even living?
I mean, I can understand that only if the plan is to gain access to do something like very big, and in that case, I really like estimate.
Yeah, like if you haven't broken production in the last several days, are you even alive? Are you even living?
Yeah.
It's like,
are you even shipping?
Are you even shipping? Yes.
Because if you don't ship, you cannot break production, right?
Mirella, new effect merch. If you haven't broken production, are you even shipping? How can you break production if it was never working? Good call.
Exactly. Good call.
Yes,
see,
indeed.
Seems like that everyone here is on the same page.
That's good. We all use effect, so production never breaks. But on those rare occasions where I can't or won't or just can't use effect for whatever, then production breaks.
Yeah. And that's fun times.
I only go on to fix when other developers break production and need ASAP hotfixes. Developers or agents?
I mean, is there even a difference?
Exactly. Well, speaking of breaking production, one of the things we wanted to talk about today is a tool that Mattia has been working on pretty heavily over the last few weeks. And the tool is he posted about it on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it today. But I figured maybe this would be a good opportunity to showcase kind of like the features and also like the blessed way to get the effect LSP and everything, all the effect developer tools that you've been working on, Mattia, set up, because I think we've got a couple now and they've been evolving over time. So maybe this would be a good opportunity to sort of like talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
I tried to ship V4, but effect printer was missing and production broke. 99% of developers are blocked on upgrading to V4 because effect printer hasn't been ported. So effect actually broke prod for me recently. I started using schema and it was flagging that other components were sending invalid data that was previously ignored. Well, is that breaking or is it a feature? Right? Like, is it a feature or a bug? To me, that's a feature. I like all my data to be well validated. I prefer my data well validated. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway,
Back to what we were discussing. So yeah, maybe Mattia, you can give a little like primer on what you've been working on and kind of show off some of that stuff. And then we can take breaks to answer like questions from chat.
Yep. So let me maybe start by sharing my screen.
Oh, and while you're pulling up your screen, there was a question in chat that maybe you can also answer about. Hello, quick question. Also, what tools are you using for telemetry in local development to explore spans and so on? Not really used to it. I have aspirations on another project, but I find it heavy. Oh no, I have Aspire on another project, but I find it heavy. So yeah, maybe we can talk about that too after we're done looking at some of the other stuff you've been working on.
Okay, so let me share my screen without maybe ending the stream.
Just make sure you leak all your environment variables.
All right. Okay. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Should we?
Also, before Mattia gets started, for those of you who missed it, there was a 24-hour cluster stream that you guys missed. Tim did a 24-hour cluster stream, and you all missed it. It might not have been 24 hours, but he did a 24-hour cluster stream.
The title was 24-hour cluster stream, so at least we had the title.
That's right. So
at least the title was there.
Now you can't say we didn't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Mattia, the floor is yours. Go for it.
Okay, so I'll basically roll with that because I haven't prepared much, but I think it's worth showing. So over the past week and maybe a little bit more, I have been working on effect type aware custom Oxlint rules. And what does that mean? Well, that obviously means that we have now effect linting rules that are type aware. And they basically share the same existing set that you have for the effect LSP today. So maybe let's start by showing it how you can get started with that. And maybe we can then like discuss the benefits, what goes when we use one tool, when we use another, when we use both, pros and cons of everything. So maybe let's start by asking our clunker, create a TypeScript project in here using TS7 with Oxlint type aware enabled and effect version 4 beta. Okay. So first of all, obviously, we need to have a project to run on. So npm, before I forget, this will take a couple of seconds. And now we will eventually have. Also, is the font size big enough?
You can maybe zoom in a little bit and close the file explorer if you don't mind, or just make it smaller.
Yeah, let me zoom in a little and can make it that smaller. Okay.
So yeah, maybe Mattia, you can give us a little more context on this, like maybe even better, you could take a whole step back as the agent's working and kind of give us an idea of like the evolution of the LSP over time. Because I think
over time,
most people have probably like, or I don't know if most, but effect users have probably heard of or seen the LSP, but it's gone through various iterations. And also like now that TypeScript Go exists, or TypeScript 7, like, you know, it's taken even further evolutions. So maybe you could like give a little bit of a history of the LSP.
Yeah. So maybe let's start from the beginning. I was born in. Okay,
In
so
the beginning.
so the effect LSP started as a project that was initially targeting the idea of improving the effect developer experience using effect. So as we know, effect has particular semantics that allow to encode a lot of stuff into the type system, and that leverages a lot of potential tools that can be created on top of that. So as you may know, initially we had the classic TypeScript, which was built in TypeScript itself. And we had what was called before effect slash language service, which was basically a TypeScript plugin for your TypeScript language server that provided additional features on top of the classic editing experience you could have inside of your editor. And this was born initially targeting exactly the experience inside the editor. So it was born way, way back when we as cavemen was writing code by hand. Now, today, that's not more the case, but that was targeting specifically that. And it provided functionalities such as diagnostics, but also things like whenever you hovered, um, for example, things like an effect type, you could have seen the exploded effect signature means that without having, for example, what happens usually when you use TypeScript with effect is that, for example, the error channels sometimes get truncated because when you hover types, you hover effects, TypeScript loves to basically compress the type signature you see. And obviously for effect, that isn't ideal because you want to see exactly which are the types and the requirement of an effect. And DLSP was a way to provide an additional experience that allowed to have that, to basically hover your effect and see the entire explosion of the effect channels. But also provided other features that were common. For example, um, before effect, a still effect is sometimes verbose because in order to leverage the type system, we basically have to do some type trickery. And sometimes that type trickery requires, for example, to um, write code that's a little verbose. For example, if you look at the syntax for declaring, for example, a schema tagged error, well, that requires quite a little syntax boilerplate in order to have that. And DLSP helped in providing effect-aware autocompletion. That means that through the autocompletion, we was able to basically break that barrier of bloating your code by allowing you to write effect code more easily. And also, last but not least, obviously, we had also a lot of features that were connected to transforming existing effect code. And that means that, for example, you can transform existing async await functions into an effect.gen and do that basically automatically, mechanically, thanks to the LSP without having you to do that manually back in the days. And that worked nicely. It was built initially as I said, something that worked mostly in your editor. But then things start to change a little because we started first to see an increase of diagnostics that we can hardcode into the effect semantic, and also an increase of the helpfulness of agents being able to understand those diagnostics. So keeping the diagnostics only in the editor was not like the correct things to do. We needed to expose that to the actual agent running your code. And so that's how, back in the days, the effect LSP patch mode was born. And with the patch mode, what happened is that basically the effect LSP would have patched your local TypeScript installation with another one, back in the days written in JavaScript, just to make it so that whenever you run your TSC, you get back not just the TypeScript error, but also any other error connected to existing effect diagnostics. For example, correct test diagnostics, like, for example, as we said before, effect has syntaxes, for example, for floating effects. And if you leave an effect floating, that won't be executed. And that's usually something that's an hard error.
Mattia,
And
I don't know if you're displaying anything except for your editor right now, but we only see your editor.
Sorry.
Also, welcome to all of the Dylan Raiders. Thank you, Dylan, for joining the stream and then leaving promptly. But hello, all of the Dylan viewers. For those of you who don't know, this is Effect Office Hours, where we kind of talk about all things Effect, answer questions from the audience, and we kind of showcase different things that are happening in the Effect ecosystem. So just to catch you up right now, Mattia is talking about the history of the Effect LSP quickly, and then we're going to talk about some of the new features that Mattia has been working on for the Effect language server plugin, and how that's kind of like evolved. But yeah, welcome to all the Dylan Raiders.
Welcome, Dylan Raiders. And so basically, like, things change because now, for example, things like a floating effect, which is a correctness error, because you don't want floating effects in there, is something that now is not useful just for the user, but is something that becomes useful also for the agents. And so, as I said, we had this patch mode that basically allowed to have the diagnostic also when you run regular TypeScript compilation. And that was great, right? And then something outside of the word changed. TypeScript announced that they will be writing the TypeScript compiler from now on, not in TypeScript itself anymore, but using Go. And that has resulted, obviously, in some parallelism improvements. For example, they now parse in parallel the TypeScript files, and that usually is about, I would say, between an 8 to 12 times improvement of speed of what you had before in TypeScript 6 or previous. And now with TypeScript 7 is like way, way, way faster. But with that also come the issue that now TypeScript is itself pluginless, because it's now a binary and now it's running itself. And so that pointed us to saying, hey, now the only way that we can use is actually the patch mode that we had before. And so now, if you are migrating to TypeScript 7, you can get the same feature of the Effect language service by using Effect TSGO, which is, in all meaning, and basically a binary replacement for your stock TypeScript. Okay.
Yeah.
And
so basically, like, if I to summarize, like the old LSP that we had with Effect was written in TypeScript or JavaScript, and it was loaded through the TS config. With Effect TSGO, it's baked into the TSGO binary. So we constantly update our Effect TSGO binary on top of the TSGO binary, and it's baked in, so you don't really need, like, it's not like a separate plugin per se. It's running through the actual TypeScript Go binary. But anyways, yeah, Mattia, continue.
Yeah, so basically you are running exactly with the same binary. And so what means is that now basically the way it works is not anymore by adding, as you said, configurations into your tsconfig to say, hey, please load this plugin. But the way it works is basically there is a CLI that performs the swap of the binary that's locally installed in your project for TypeScript. It swaps that with the effect TypeScript Go binary that has the effect specific features. And what happens is that the moment you swap the binary, you basically get the same exact behavior that you get before with regular TypeScript. What changes is that now, when you add into your tsconfig plugin section, even though that section is deprecated, we still use that section to provide additional settings. And if there are settings there that loads the effect LSP, then you get the effect LSP behavior, which means that now you can get basically the new diagnostics inside of your editor through the TypeScript Go, which again is between 8 to 12 times faster, which is like crazier. And that allowed basically to have inside the TypeScript Go version, the TypeScript Go version has way more rules than the historical language service, basically because now we have the performance budget to do them. Before, a lot of rules were impractical because the old language service added basically a delay of 12 milliseconds compared to the classic editor experience of a single file inside of the effect small repository, for example. And instead, with effect TSGO, we are now speaking not of milliseconds, we are speaking of nanoseconds. So we are way in a different order of magnitude. And
yeah, so the difference between like having the effect LSP enabled versus not with the effect TSGO plugin, let's call it, or
yeah,
effect TSGO binary is basically negligible. Like,
yeah,
right?
it's
I'm
almost
understanding
negligible. Yeah,
it's like you would
the
never even
worst
notice
case,
it.
yeah, in the worst case, you get, let's say that with TypeScript Go, you get a compilation that takes 10 seconds, for example, with 10 seconds. With the effect LSP rules, you bump that up to roughly 11 seconds. So,
And that's for like a full cold start compilation
yeah, that's for a
for
full
like a
cold
pretty
start.
large project.
Yeah,
But in terms of
that's
like editor experience, like for diagnostics and things in the editor, the difference is
That's even
imperceptible.
faster. Yeah, that's even
Yeah.
faster because the way that works is that TypeScript Go has basically two different ways of type checking. There is like a lazy type checking, and there is a full type check. And during the full type check, there are way more things that get checked and basically checked all of your code. Whereas with the editor mode, it just like checks the blast radius of the files that you are actually changes. So that's called I think that's called inside of the TypeScript code base, that's called lazy mode, because actually it checks lazily the nodes as they are hit in order to type check something.
Wow, we have a new troll that's entered the chat. Michael Arnaldi says, "Does it work with cluster?" Prob- that'll be covered during the 24-hour cluster stream.
Yeah, that will be covered
Real
later on.
real developers write effect using cat and a file. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Straight up from the command line.
yeah, that works as well, right?
Um,
And
so this
yeah,
that is basically gets us up to the almost the current day, but
yeah,
like it recently, if I understand correctly, you've added another feature to the effect TSGO binary for folks who
yes,
are using Oxlint, right?
Oxlint, exactly. So basically, the thing is that with the advent, let's call it like that, with the advent of things like, for example, bypass or Oxlint, for example, now there is an increasing number of people that are actually running the type-aware linting rules. Back in the days, they were very expensive because that meant like running again the type check, running the rules in JavaScript. For example, TypeScript ESLint was famous for like being quite slow. I would not say like crazily slow, but it was slow, and it wasn't its fault. It was like because like there was no parallelism, and the checker could not be optimized for that. And if you enable that, you basically had to type check again. And then Oxlint did something interesting, which is very similar to what we were doing in the effect TypeScript Go, which is basically again to fork TypeScript Go and build on top of that a linter that's basically the TSGO lint part. And that linter is able to run both the type checking and the custom type aware rules that Oxlint offers. And that is huge for regular TypeScript developers. And so why should effect developers miss that, right? And so we have basically find out a way to get the effect linting rules inside of your Oxlint. So
So is this like is the Oxlint integration with the effect TSGO binary a full replacement for all of the rules that you get during type checking? Or is it only like a subset of rules, or is it a totally different rule set?
basically the same exact rules that you can have via the effect LSP patching, you get also the ability to run them inside the Oxlint type aware. And
And the
so,
does the configuration for enabling this, because like right now, if I use the effect TSGO without Oxlint integration, my
yep,
configuration for that lives in the deprecated plugin section of the
yep,
tsconfig.
yep,
But now I can move that configuration into my oxlintrc.json or whatever.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let me maybe show how that works. So first of all, you obviously need to install that. And as always, we have an ND pnpmx effect TSGO setup. You need to select which is your TypeScript configuration package. And then you can see that now it asks which kind of integration you want to install. And based on what it detects that's already in the repository, will automatically suggest what we can install. We can install, for example, the TypeScript language service, but we can also install the Oxlint type-aware rules. Now we
If
can
you
proceed. So, sorry.
if you have both installed,
Yeah.
do you need the configuration in both places?
And we'll go toward that later when I show a couple of things.
Cool.
So if you use then effect TSGO installation, what will happen is that now you can say, hey, I want to install in-depth dependencies. I do not want to configure which rules I want. I want to enable the setup with VS Code. And now you can see that it will basically suggest and ask you permission to modify a couple of files in your code base. It will add a prepare script in your package.json that will basically make sure that every time you install the dependencies, the binaries are swapped with the effect TSGO binaries. It will also install itself. And then it will, in this case, also update our tsconfig to enable the LSP. We have basically a schema to get nice auto completion of that. It will add that plugins section that we mentioned before. And now, given we have selected Oxlint, it will also detect that we have Oxlint locally installed with the JSON config style. And then it will basically say, hey, let's change that as well, because we have our own Oxlint schema that has also our additional completion. And then you can do that. So Now, what you can do, you can say, yes, I want to apply the changes. Now the changes are applied, and in order to finish that, we need to npm install, so that we ensure that now when we run npm install, we will actually see that we have patched TypeScript, we have patched Oxlint, we have also patched Oxlint TSGO lint, and also a couple of DTS files from Oxlint. Okay, all clear up to now, I think.
So far, I'm tracking.
Okay, and now the first thing that we need to do, obviously, is to reload our editor so that it figures out that now we have a different TypeScript version in here. And now, if we go in here and we, for example, say, okay, we delete something, we see that now we get the classic diagnostics that the effect LSP provides, right? They are still running for now over our LSP. But I know that some people doesn't like that. Some people prefer to have all of the diagnostics running in a single place. Like, for example, we mentioned before, with Vit Plus, we have a single check command that runs everything, both type checking and linting. And so what you can do now is basically go into your plugin session and say, hey, I want to disable the diagnostics. So say diagnostics false. And now the LSP will basically stop providing the diagnostics. And now what you can do instead, you can say, hey, okay, I already have Oxlint that does both the type checking and also the type aware rules. Now I can say, hey, maybe I want to enable also the effect TSGO plugin. And then you can choose which rule to enable. For example, I want floating effect, and I can say that's an error. And you can see that in the immediate moment I save this, now if I go back in here, now I get the same exact message, but now it's baked by Oxlint. So that means that now, for example, disabling the rule uses the classic Oxlint syntax that we always have.
Nice. Very nice.
And
Very,
also
very
this
cool.
means that we also get both of the rules, because, for example, you can see now that I have removed the await, and now you can see that we are getting the standard Oxlint type aware rules of floating promises. And that is running exactly in a single command without having basically to have our effect diagnostic in a process, which is TSC, and then having like Oxlint doing the other ones. But again, the interesting stuff is this experimental type check option of Oxlint, that if I then run in here, you can see that now in here we have our rules from, and also the type checked things, for example, cannot find program. But now in theory, if I disable that and I run again, in a single place we get both the TypeScript type check errors and the effect LSP rules and the Oxlint type aware rules in a single type check pass. That's not two type check passes, it's a single one. So that means even faster ways to iterate for your agents, for example.
Really nice. There are a couple of questions in chat.
Yep.
One was, is TSGO ever going to support plugins? What if some other library wanted to do custom LSP stuff? You'd have to choose between effects and the other libraries. TSGO binary right now.
Yeah, basically the TS team right now have been like argumenting that for now, the way that we'll provide extension for other libraries to do stuff is via API, not via plugin that gets loaded inside of your process, but via something that basically invokes the type checker process and communicate with that in order to perform stuff. And that works really nicely for things like, for example, integration in the editor, etc. But unfortunately, it tends to be slower for things like linting. That's why, for example, Oxlint itself decided as well, okay, we need to build on top of TypeScript Go itself, right? And so basically for now they just saying, okay, we will try with the API and we'll see. But right now they basically said that they basically have said that plugins for now will be maybe tackled after they have tackled the API. First they will hit the API, see where can go with the API, and then they will decide from there. Because again, plugins now are running inside of a native binary, and so um, there are quite a few problems with getting plugins into native binaries. Obviously, security problems, also compatibility problems, because for me, coming from a TypeScript developer, that you write a file, you compile one time, you ship, just thinking that now, for example, in Go, you have to write code one time, you compile that, something like 6 times, because I have to target Windows, Linux 32, 64, ARM, Darwin 64, Darwin ARM. So it starts to get quite a few architecture, and so it's not easy like before. It gets extra steps basically. And Go itself supports, for example, plugins only for Linux and Darwin, and they are still experimental. So right now there is no foreseeable future where type plugins, in the way they worked in JavaScript, are getting into TypeScript Go. We will get APIs. We are getting APIs because they are constantly being shipped. But for now, won't get plugins. Not sure if I fully covered
No,
the.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Another question about this was how would this work in a mono repository if I wanted to migrate, for example, one package to affect TSGO and keep the others on the current version?
Yeah, if you want to migrate one package to affect TSGO and keep the others on the current version, that's fine. You just have basically in the monorepo, that means that you will basically use different TypeScript compilers for each project in the monorepo. Or basically what you can do, again, if you already are using a single TypeScript version in your entire monorepo, what happens is that you can decide to enable the rules only for some projects of your monorepo. You don't have to enable that plugin section in your base tsconfig. What usually I see is people maybe starting adopting them only in a specific um, in a specific project of your monorepo, and then once you adopt that everywhere, then you can maybe move that single configuration into your root tsconfig that bundles everything. And Effect TSGO respects that. If you have a project that has the plugin section and a project that hasn't that, again, the project without the plugin section will work as the stock TypeScript compiler, because it's actually just that rebuilt.
Got it. Okay. Cool. So a little bit more complicated for like a mono repo that's trying to migrate incrementally to like affect TSGO, but still not too bad. It would
Yeah,
be no different than like it would be no different than having a mono repo where you're using JavaScript, TypeScript version
exactly,
and slowly migrating over to affect TSGO.
exactly.
Although to be honest, like I would just migrate the whole project at that point.
Yeah,
Because you're gonna have small discrepancies. I mean, like the TSGO is pretty on par with like the
Mm,
things that the compilation that you get from TypeScript in JS.
mm,
But I know they fixed a few bugs as well
mm,
when they were building the TypeScript Go version. I think Mike was talking about this yesterday
mm.
in a chat that we had, but like something about when they do evaluation of like union members
Yeah, they
before
get
it was
yeah,
non-deterministic, and then when they started parallelizing type checking, they realized that and fixed it. So now
yeah.
like it's you actually get deterministic evaluation of things like that. So
which was still a bug before, I would say, because like two
Right.
different compilation could have resulted into like different orders of the union members in the emitted like DTS, and now instead, yeah, it's deterministic, and
Right.
so I would consider that a bug fix. But yeah,
No, but this is sick. It's we're already using this, I think, in the effect repository,
yep,
right?
yep.
I think we have it set up there.
Yep, we already have that set up there, and it also comes with new rules that are very useful, and yeah, and as you can see, that like it doesn't cost much in terms of performance. Again, I would say that there is like, as I said before, there is a maximum like an 8% more time spent for the overall checking of the entire repository. But if you are coming from TypeScript, if you are coming from TypeScript version, from TypeScript written in TypeScript, let me say like that. If you were coming from TypeScript written in TypeScript, you basically get an 8%, an 8 times faster check at least. So I would like migrate immediately.
Mike said that it wasn't considered a bug because evaluation of a union is the same if it's A or B
Yeah,
versus B or A. But I would argue
yeah.
that like if you're doing compilation, if you don't have an identical output every time, then that's like for the same input. That's somewhat of a bug.
I may be wrong, but I think that they adjusted that at the emission phase. That like they tried to get the pseudo-deterministic output at the emission phase, if I recall correctly. But still, like the entire compiler internally still hold like the type, the union, like in a non-deterministic way.
Yeah. What other have you added any more like custom rules that you think are like cool that you want to show off?
Yeah, there are quite a few. I just wanted to show also another thing before moving on to rules that could be interesting. That is, maybe we can. No, maybe I can just tell that. Obviously, this now works also with Vite Plus. So now, if you are kickstarting your project with VP Create, and then you start your project, now this works as well for the Oxlint that's bundled with Vite Plus, because Vite Plus bundles internally its own copy, let's say, of Oxlint, and this works as well for Vite Plus. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I was muted, but
Yeah.
FIWS wants to know if we're adding custom rules for
rules
effect cluster.
I have now
Just for you, just for you.
yeah. Yeah, I have like let a couple of agents go through the scripts of the various office hours, the latest commit on the effect repo, and other open source projects using effect with the prompt of saying, "Hey, look into the code and see if there was some bug fixes that could have been prevented by a rule in order to get ideas for new rules." And I think that I got a couple of suggestions for clusters. So yeah, probably see a couple ones incoming.
But they're only enabled for FIWS. That's it.
Yeah. Obviously.
But yeah, if there's any like recent rules you've worked on that you
Yeah.
want to show off, I think this would be a cool time.
Yeah, we could show off maybe. Let me just a second so I can grab the literal example without having to rewrite that. I have it here. Just a second. So recently, I have added some rules which are interesting, especially if you are now migrating version of Effect to Effect v4, and you are starting to adopt some effect patterns. For example, one that's interesting to adopt is, here we go. This one. Okay. Let me copy this one. And here. Okay. So as you can see now, as you can know, effect now has a catchReason, right? And so now snippets of code that you may have laying around in your code, like these, now can be handled by the catchReason, right? And so if you enable the rule, which is catch tag to catchReason error, now we get an error when you basically hand roll your own reason dispatch, your reason branching, and you can quick fix that immediately to catchReason, which if you are moving to effect v4, that's kind of nice because that helps, I'd say, a lot with the cleanup.
And just to clarify this for folks who may not be familiar with this like pattern that we've introduced in v4, but in effect version 4, I think we talked about this on a previous office hours, but we introduced this pattern where I think a good example is like the AI error is one example, but I think a better, maybe more like semantic example is the platform errors. So before in effect platform, we had like the platform error was like had a bunch of like reasons in it, but I think they were just string tags, and then the actual like cause of the error was unknown, and you couldn't really discriminate further on the cause of the error based on the reason. You just knew that like, oh, this is I don't know, I'm going to make something up, a system error with like a bad argument reason. But the actual cause that you got in that error, you couldn't further, like it didn't narrow any further. Now in effect v4, we introduced this pattern where you can have like a parent error type, and maybe Mattia, you can show the example in your code here, where you can have like a parent error, like for example, this outer error class that has a tag, just like your normal errors in effect. But it also can have a reason field that has like sub errors in it that allow you to further discriminate that outer error. And the point of this is, especially for libraries that we release, like the AI SDK and CLI and like Effect Platform, the more tools you use from us, we wanted to avoid exploding the error channel with like 100 different errors, so that you could like have a little bit more of a clear idea what's going on by hovering the types. So you could see like, oh, there's a platform error in here, and then like decide I'm going to handle the platform error and all of its reasons, or maybe the platform error and just some of its reasons, or whatever. So in this example, program can fail with an outer error, and then you can decide how you're going to handle the different reasons in that program. So in v4, we introduced combinators specifically to handle this, where you can choose to catch the reason instead. So maybe you can do the rewrite here, Mattia. And then you can see here, like in catchReason, the first argument is the parent error tag, which allows you to actually get narrowing on the second argument, which is the reason tag. And then you can choose how to handle that reason. The only downside or thing that we can't do with this pattern is remove the error from the error channel if you handle all reasons, because there's no way for us to know that. But what you can do here is you can, in effect, we have like a unwrap reason. So if you like, instead of catching the individual reasons, let's say you do want to handle all the reasons for a particular error type, you could choose to unwrap the reason into the effect. Outer error. So you can unwrap outer error, and now you get all the individual reasons kind of expanded into the error channel. So it's a way for us to keep error types a little bit cleaner, and it lets you do things like, for example, in the AI SDK, we have like a bunch of different reasons associated with an AI error. So you could choose to catch a bunch of different reasons in a program and then either die with the rest of the reasons or map all the rest of the failures to some other error or whatever. So it lets you be a little more flexible with how you're handling these types of errors. So
Mm-mm. And also, maybe another one that we can show off that's still related to error handling.
Mattia, there was a question that
Yep.
Federico had. Maybe you could go back to the quick fix version of the code here. So Federico was asking, after the max explanation, can you apply the fix for the rule again? It looks like the behavior changed, unless I'm wrong. And no, the behavior doesn't change here because here you're doing the same thing. You're catching outer error, narrowing to reason A, and succeeding with one, otherwise failing with every other error.
Yep.
If you maybe apply the quick fix and then maybe you can copy this, Mattia, and comment it out and
Yep.
put it below, and then apply the fix.
So let's do like that. Okay, so we can see. Let me just for a second. Sorry, let me just disable this mermaid extension because it's driving me crazy. Disable. Okay.
So
Okay.
just to be clear, this has the same behavior because when you narrow on reason A, you'll succeed with one, and then every other error will continue to just fall through. It would have different behavior if you failed with the error.reason or if you succeeded with the error or something like that, right? Like that would be different.
Yep. And you can see indeed while we are getting another error, any unknown context, because now given we succeed, we have been coding another behavior, but yeah, you can see that the same suggestion that we had before, now that I changed fail to succeed, we don't get, because that would change the semantic if we provided it right, and instead having the fail triggers that because that's the actual things that we can rewrite. And this could also be written as something like return error tag error.reason tag equals reason A. You can see that even in this case, the rule is still triggering because this is another way basically to writing the same branching. And another way could have been, for example, saying just if this, sorry.
Right.
Basically, any way you can think of like writing a branching that triggers the rule, because yeah, see this trigger as well, because this has again the same behavior of handling one specific case and then not the other. What you can also do is things like, it should work.
Someone in chat says, "This is the most code I've seen typed by hand in months." Oh God.
Okay.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean,
But yeah,
the point of this though is that you're giving your agent the tools to write more semantic, better effect code, right? Like
yeah.
the effect LSP with all the recommended things enabled gives the agent a lot of context to write more semantic effect code. So the point of this isn't to like kind of show off a cool little toy so that when you're typing in the editor you see these different things. It's that like your agent is getting extremely fast feedback on the code that it writes, and it's guiding the agent into correct patterns with effect, right? That's the point of this. Is like, and the point of the LSP, the TSGO and Oxlint integration again is speed of iteration, right? The agent can invoke this very quickly and like see different things that it needs to fix. So, yeah.
Yep.
It's okay, Federico. Federico says, "I'm sorry for doubting you, Mattia."
And also,
Don't you ever doubt Mattia, the king of
let me
effect dev
also
tools.
see. Let me also see. I don't remember if I shipped that catch tag, multiple catch tag error. This is also another. There are two consecutive catch tag transformation that could be collapsed into a single catch tag call, and this is a way again something that quick fix. I don't have a quick fix for that, but yeah, this is another like linting rule that we have, and again, it doesn't seem, but actually, one would say, yeah, this is really simple. You just need to find consecutive catch tag calls, right? That's not fully true because you can do that, but you need to be type aware, because if this effect emits the same error that's emitted in here, you cannot rewrite that as a catch text because you would change the semantic of that. So if, for example, in here I say new outer error reason new reason A, let me disable the other rule so we can. Okay. What did I do wrong? Two arguments because outer error has also a context. Reason, right? And
Is outer
a
error?
context. Oh, it's not taken as an object. It's only just, yeah. Okay. And this. Oh, it's not an effect, right?
It's not a tag, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I try to keep the LSP testing code as little as possible to avoid overlaps, and probably copying this example from the effect LSP wasn't a good idea. But yeah, you can see that now in here, we cannot safely say that this couple of catch tags can be rewritten to a single catch tags, because the issue is that this is refailing outer error with other error with outer error, and that is rehandled by that. So writing this as a single catch tags,
that's a very cool optimization or a way to avoid this foot gun. It's very cool.
And there are quite a few that apply the same concept.
Oh, sorry, Lloyd asks Mattia, is there a way to apply a recommended set of rules or sensible defaults through Oxlint? Maybe you can show.
Yeah, by default, in the moment you enable the plugin Effect TSGO, you get automatically applied the presets that are enabled by default with Oxlint. For example, the rule that I just disabled in here, any unknown in error context, is a rule that comes, if I recall correctly, in the correctness category. And as you can see, without having me enabling that explicitly in my code, I had that rule triggered before. So maybe I can try to force that rule in here as a no. Yeah, you can see in here that we get that rule without having that automatically enabled. So by default, you get enabled the rules of the correctness and category, if I recall correctly. The restriction and style are not, because they are opting. If you apply a restriction, maybe we can try. Let's see if we break something. Settings. Whoa, too much. Categories, sorry. Restriction error. Let me see. And now that we have the restriction enabled, I think that if I do we should get this code constructs a new promise, prefer effect API as such as effective sync. So when you enable the restriction profile, it also enables the effect native profile because you are restricting basically your code.
Cool. Yeah, so there are, I guess, groupings you can enable all at once, and
Yeah.
then you can choose what to opt out of and whatever.
Yeah.
Mr. Chicken Poulet asks, I missed the explanation about the differences between using the TSGO plugin versus the Oxlint one. Is it
Yeah.
better, quote unquote, because it does not impact the TSGO performance, or the Oxlint plugin provides a better API to find issues? Well, so maybe you can talk, Mattia, about just like the
Yeah.
fact that the reason why having it run through Oxlint is a good idea.
Yeah. So basically, let's maybe tackle the two aspects. So maybe we can, like, as always, as any programmer will say, there is like no correct choice. It depends. But I would say why I would go more towards one direction other than the other one. So basically, the thing is that with the effect patched TSC, what you get is by default the diagnostics and the improved editor experience. But that's more tied to the TypeScript compiler. So that means that the errors are emitted while you type check your code. Okay. And that means that if you also have your own linting that is style based, for example, I want all of my variable uppercase because I really want to scream at me what they mean. That needs to be run on a separate process, on a linting phase, right? And so that means that now your agent and you as well have basically two things to check for kind of the same thing. The same thing is basically how correct your code is, right? There is different level of how correct your code is, but they are both pointing out your code is not correct. Okay. So with the patched TSC, you get the editor experience, and I would still recommend using that for the editor experience because then you get all of the nice effect things that we have mentioned before, like for example, I hover and I see the expanded type parameter, and I would still use that. What I would argue that probably now makes sense more now that we have agents and we maybe want to provide a single point where to provide agents feedback about our code is that now probably things like Oxlint that do also the linting and the type checking in a single pass, probably they make sense probably because they give like a single endpoint that you run and you get all the feedbacks, right? And again, that's faster because it doesn't mean that your agent have to first run the type checking phase to check if the code is correct and then the linting to get errors on top of that. That means twice times the type checking for type aware rules. That means that with that, we can run with Oxlint type aware and type checking enabled. We can run only once the type checking and get both in a single pass. Okay. And this is one of the benefits. And the other benefits, obviously, is all of the rest of the tooling that comes from how Oxlint handles rules. For example, you have better way of providing fine-grained rules over a specific set of files, over portions of your code, over disabling and enabling that obviously the effect LSP provides only basic features of enabling, disabling per line, enabling, disabling per range, and with TSGO, we also get the specific overrides per region of your file system. But again, they are not like integrated and advanced as Oxlint is, for example, for that, because they focus on that as a primary target. And so I would say that probably I would have the LSP installed with DSC for my editor experience, and I would use the Oxlint rule if I were using already the type aware rules from Oxlint, which obviously I'm a big fan of type aware rules because I think that without type awareness, the rules are like They cannot provide the full value. They understand just only half of your code. Because, for example, for an effect, understanding only the EST without seeing the types, without seeing the errors and the services expressed by the types, you don't get the full value, I would say.
Lloyd asks, I guess Biome's architecture prevents this from being implemented with the effect LSP because it's not built on top of TSGO. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mattia.
No, you're welcome. Unless you.
I have nothing useful to say.
So I would say, yeah, the problem Biome has. I would not call them problem. It's not a problem. It's like a different architecture, different choices they made. Biome, first of all, decided to go with GridQL instead of using classic APIs for describing linting rules. And GridQL is a declarative way to express linting rules. Okay, and that declarative way is amazing, but it's not type aware. It works only on the AST. It only sees the AST, and if I recall correctly, it's built on top of three-seater, I think, or something like that. And so that means that they are not type aware. And again, as I just said, most of the effect values comes from the types. We have just seen an example of a rule that one could say, yeah, we can provide a mechanic AST rule that does that by just looking at the AST. Yeah, but there are some gotchas, some edge cases that knowing the types prevents you from incorrectly pointing at a place in your code and say, hey, this has to be rewritten. When not true. And if you point to incorrect places, you will say, yeah, that's fine, I will disable the rule locally. Yeah. But the problem with agents is that they will start to disable the rules everywhere because they don't have like the consciousness, or they don't agree with you with where it's fine to disable them and when it's fine to keep them and actually address them.
Good stuff. Cherry, please. Thank you for the Prime on Twitch. There was a question in the YouTube chat about the LSP. Why are we not getting the type parameters hint on hover if we do something like export const handle equals effect of function on traced? So maybe you can just test that, Mattia, and see.
Probably, yeah. Probably it's something we could add. I think that probably the fact is that it's not properly an effect, but is a function return an effect. Let me check. Effect.fn. Oh, as you can see, completions. Nice. Handle a number, and we return a, and we say, oops. Okay. Oh, yeah, I have strict enabled, so it doesn't want me to use math.random. It wants me to use the effect API for that. Okay. So in here, maybe I should appoint that. We should add that. It's because that's a function returning an effect, not properly an effect.
Yeah, I think you still get the type parameter expansion on variables and on yields.
Yeah.
Like, and if you hover a yield, you also get it. So maybe I guess you could add it to the function, but it would be.
The only issue is that I mean, not issue. The only thing that needs to be decided to a sensible default is the fact that it depends on the overload that you have selected for functions. Because
the function case is a little tricky.
Yeah, it could have like multiple overloads, and that means that we need to keep that on sync with the currently selected overloads. I need to check because I think that the issue was that the LSP protocol basically shares all of the signatures, but you cannot provide additional data specific to a signature, if I recall correctly. There was something. I need to check, but I think that at least for functions without overloads, we can provide that definitely. Let me write that down so I can remember to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Spirit says it'd be great if that was added because I have some functions that I literally don't know what they return because all I can see is ... Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel you. I have the same
With
problem sometimes.
yeah. Yeah. I think
That's
that
worth
probably
an
I had
exploration.
that in. Yeah, I think that probably I had. Now that I think about it, I had that in the previous version. And probably during the migration, I probably forgot to migrate that. I didn't maybe had test exactly for that. I'll add that. Let me open an issue, so I'll add that. Okay.
Cool. Sebastian says, "Thank you, quote unquote, thank you for the Prime." Oh no, we're that kind of stream now. Yes, Sebastian, I do stream to Twitch as well for those who prefer Twitch over YouTube.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we always were that kind of stream, right?
always. The fact is
YouTube was only the cover, right?
That's
the
right.
second plan.
It's the cover for my Twitch stream, actually.
Yeah. It's a way to like bring in viewers into the Twitch stream.
Into my Twitch stream. That's right. That's right. The Effect
Actually,
YouTube
we are
channel
starting delayed.
funneling people into my Twitch.
Yeah, we are actually starting delayed the YouTube stream on purpose, just to get streamers to watch on Twitch because it starts like 12 seconds before.
That's right. It's just lead generation.
That makes sense.
All right. Are there any other questions that folks have? We've been going for about an hour 15. So if nobody has any other questions for Mattia or anything like that, I highly suggest you give the new Effect TSGO Oxlint integration or Vite Plus integration a shot. I know I will. I'm going to enable all of the rules. I'm going to make my code base as strict as humanly possible.
One last thing that I need to show, maybe. I forgot.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry.
Go for it.
It's not properly a feature, but I think that's still like before we had just basically the way to learn about new rules and understand what they do was basically either by looking at the list that was on the README, and also another way people had to do that. Sorry, I can do that here maybe. You can always be on px and effect TSGO configure, I think it was called. Config. And you can choose your config. And in here, one way to see the rules is, if you like, through your terminal, because you are a terminal guy or a terminal person, you can basically go through that and choose which rule you want to enable, and then you can go up and down to change the severities for that. And that's one way we had for a while to learn about rules that can be enabled. You can see that there are the various categories: effect native, style, correctness, etc. But another thing that was added recently with this new Oxlint feature is that now inside of the README, we have links for every rule. And each rule basically gets some information, like, for example, which is the default severity, which is configured at when you use it, if it's fixable or not, the supported effect version, the diagnostic codes that could be used, the name that should use when you configuring that rule in the LSP, or the name that should be used for Oxlint. And then you also get like a preview in here with like a quick config that you can just copy and paste. So if you are lazy like me, you can just copy these from here and paste that into your Oxlint RC. And there you go. You now have basically just that rule enabled.
Yeah, this is really cool. Very, very, very cool. There were a couple of questions that did come in. Are there docs on the Oxlint stuff? I believe, Mattia, there were docs already in the README, right? You showed some of it just then.
Yeah, let me, where did I move my browser? There it is. If you go into the README, there is a section that's called LSP-based linter. In here, it shows off basically a couple of the options that you have to run the effect diagnostics. It shows off that you can occur when you run TSC directly in the type check phase, or there is a specific command that you can run. For example, if I take this command and I run it in my CLI, again, I have this in here, let me interrupt, and I run this in theory. Let me see if it still works. Yeah, we do not have nothing. Oh yes, because I have disabled that, but that basically runs your rules as well in the config. Oh, that's because we have set diagnostics to false in here. Okay, and now if I run that again, oh well, I need to double check that. But yeah, basically that's another way to run diagnostics and also to get them in various format. Let me just check the help. For example, it can be useful if you want them to be reported in CI. You can get like in JSON, in Pretty, or text, GitHub Actions, various. That's useful if you want to integrate that in your CI. And obviously, the latest one is the one that we have spoke about today, which is the Oxlint patch command. And in here, you can see the setup guide. Most of the setup is handled by the effect setup, as we have seen before. But if you want to perform the setup manually yourself or point your agent to this README and say, hey, please enable this, here you have the full documentation of what needs to be enabled in order to get them working. Also, things like the known limitation, which I have not mentioned, but it's kind of obvious. They works only with type-aware true, because again, like 95% of the rules need type awareness to handle edge cases like the one that we have seen before.
99% of effect TSGO
99% of 99% of effect LSP rules are blocked by type aware being disabled.
There was a question about whether or not this works with ESLint. It does not, because it is built on top of the Oxlint TSGO integration.
Yeah.
There was another question. Oh yeah, Mr. Chicken Poulet, I forgot to talk about open telemetry stuff. So there was already a recommendation for Kit Langdon's Motel project, which is cool if you want like a terminal based like quick way to get telemetry up and running. If you want something that's a little bit closer to what you would see in production, you could set up like if you want something like a more, I don't know, Grafana inspired, you could do the Grafana LGTM image and just run it locally. This will spin up that Docker image spins up Loki,
Tempo.
Grafana, Tempo, and Prometheus. No,
Pyroscope. No, Prometheus. Yeah, Prometheus, Tempo, Loki, and Pyroscope. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something else. Anyway, this thing is pretty useful if you want something closer to production. There's also in VS Code the effect VS Code extension through the effect dev tools layer. You can actually see in VS Code traces. So Mattia, if you want to flip back to your editor and just show off, I don't know if you have the extension installed right now.
No, I still need to finish to push the PR for V4 for that.
Okay, so it currently only works with V3, but we have an effect VS Code extension that will soon be updated to work with V4. And basically you can actually see traces in VS Code once that is updated. But there's a bunch of options for local development. I tend to set up the LGTM stack here, and I use process compose to do it because I'm a Nix fanboy, so I like to have everything running in my Nix dev shell, so I don't have to worry about like getting a Docker image or anything like that on my machine. I can just run everything through Nix. But you could do it through Docker as well, and it'll still work. And then you would just set up the telemetry layer in your effect app.
And also for the agents, that's also this GCX CLI tool that you can point to your OpenTelemetry legitimate once you have that running locally. And basically, with GCX CLI, it's very useful for agents because you can set up manually the profile pointing to your local Docker image running Hotel legitimate, and then you can basically get your agent access to consuming the metrics thanks to GCX. And sorry if I interrupted you. One last thing that I also want to mention that we mentioned last streams is also that now in Effect v4 there is a layer config that basically setups the tracing and the metrics and the endpoints, the protocol, etc., based on the environment variables, convention names for telemetry, which is amazing because then you have Grafana Hotel telemetry, Grafana Hotel legitimate to run locally. You can have then your code consume the env to set up to which environment point the metrics or the spans. And then what happens is that between your dev environment and your production environment, basically you just swap the values of those n variables, and that's basically really it. So without changing your code, basically you get things that your agent can point at.
Yeah, and there was a question about GCX. Is that a way for your agent to be able to inspect spans and things like that?
Yeah,
yeah, you can read about it, but it's basically like a tool that allows your agentic companion to inspect your telemetry. So it's really useful when working locally. There was a bunch of questions as well. 37% of all stats are made up. Yes, indeed. Has a date for the first RC been announced? I have a large prod app that's still on 4.0 beta 0, but we'll jump on the first RC. Wow. We're like 100 or so versions into the beta.
Wow.
I highly suggest at least updating to the latest beta.
You are like 100 betas behind. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I would update to the latest one before jumping.
I would definitely update to the latest beta. RC is coming very, very soon. We don't have an exact date, but it is coming.
Yep.
Is Effect loosely inspired by Rust? No, it is not. It is inspired by Zio from Scala, and then basically rewritten from the ground up to optimize for JavaScript runtime. So it can be as fast as possible and as memory efficient as possible running on in JS instead of in the JVM. Yeah. What other questions came in? Is there also a way to test the JS docs? Sebastian is like so proud of the tool that you built. Why don't you come on office hours and talk about it?
And show it, yeah.
You nerd. There was a question in my Twitch chat. Just curious, if we have a VS Code extension, should there also be a NeoVim extension? Just a fun idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, feel free to build it. We would love a NeoVim extension. But honestly, like if you're coding in the shell, I think things like Kit's Motel thing that he built is probably good enough. When you're working in the shell or any other like shell-based telemetry viewer, it's probably better than some custom tool that we could build.
Yeah.
Cool. Did I miss any questions? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, but I haven't been like following.
Cool. Well, if there's any questions we didn't get to, feel free to post them in the office hours chat. Thank thank you all very much for attending office hours today. We will see you next week, and until then, happy affecting. Later,
Happy
nerds.
affecting everyone. Bye bye.